There's now growing evidence to support the Army's claim that they're indeed whittling away the number of trained and experienced gunmen available to the terrorists. Yet even while the IRA's recruits are getting younger and their tactics wilder, the quantities of arms the troops are finding and the type of equipment being used against them indicate that the terrorists now have an alarming amount of hardware in action. Since 1970, the Army has captured 369 rifles, 413 pistols, 44 automatic weapons, and 250,000 rounds of ammunition. Yet still the flow into Northern Ireland goes on, and even in the hands of teenagers, terrorist guns remain a dangerous problem for the soldiers on the streets. Captain Tim Sewell is Assistant Operations Officer with the King's Own Scottish Borderers based at Springfield Road Barracks, covering some of the most active terrorist battlegrounds in Belfast. What are the aspects of duty here that are most dangerous, at which you're most vulnerable?
I suppose any of the patrolling is potentially dangerous, but again, it depends on the time of the day and the type of patrol you're on. I think many of the soldiers prefer to be on foot, so they can react as individuals to an event. If you're in a vehicle, you're very much more of a set-piece target for a gunman, and probably easier for him to hit.
Captain, what sort of weapons have the IRA been using in the last few months?
Well, as you can see from the table, they've been using a large variety, and we've been lucky that we've been picking up quite a large quantity in the last 2 months in particular. And as you can see, they really fall into 3 categories. The first sort you have is this revolver and the pistols on the table. This, we think, is the sort of weapon used by the young boy on his first outing, when he's firing probably from out of range of the weapon and making as much noise as possible to give himself Dutch courage and perhaps frighten the troops. It's interesting that they've tried to adapt 1 or 2 of the weapons, not very successfully, I may add. This one is a 4.5, which has had a pistol grip put on the front and a shoulder grip here. It's had an extended magazine put on, so it holds 20 rounds. It's not a weapon I'd like to fire myself, but I suppose it gives somebody quite a lot of courage to run along with one of those. The remainder are mainly old war weapons, falling into the 2 categories of the Sten and the Schmeiser and the grease gun here. This one, in fact, is a silenced Sten. You can see the silence on the end which screws off. Quite a useful little assassination weapon, but as you can see, the weapon itself not in very good condition.
Presumably there's a lot of stuff lying around the country that's just been buried at different times, going back over 30 years.
Yes, as you can see, the age of the weapons is pretty old on the whole. We have picked up 1 or 2 modern weapons. Obviously, those are the ones we really want to get our hands on. Apart from the pre-war weapons, they're now bringing in more modern type weapons, like this M1 carbine. This one, in fact, was made in America, but we aren't saying they're all coming from America. It's quite possible they're coming from the continent as well. It's a cheap gun to buy, and as long as you know where to go, you can pick one up quite easily. It's a very handy weapon. It's a high velocity. It's light. It's simple to conceal. It's a nice weapon to handle and a very simple weapon to fire. This is the traditional Thompson machine gun used by the IRA since time immemorial. This is a 1930 variety. You can see it's got an enormous drum magazine on. It's a most cumbersome weapon. It weighs a ton. I'm a fairly large man, but the IRA are putting kids of 14 out on the streets trying to control one of these.
What do you think this passion they have for it is?
I don't know. It looks the part. It's very big. It's cumbersome. It can be sprayed like this, I suppose, just like the gangsters in Chicago. But it's not a very business-like weapon. It's highly inaccurate, and it weighs a ton. The one you've got in your hand, for instance, is a very much more useful weapon. It's got a straight magazine for a start. This is one built during the war. It's got a prefabricated sight here. In fact, this is a US one. It's easier to handle, and it's got quite a capability. Well, this this one is an armlight rifle, which is the most sophisticated we've found so far. It was used by both the Americans and the British forces in the jungles in the Far East. This one was dug up in a trench about 5 days ago. It's an extremely good order. It's a very lethal weapon. It's a high velocity. It's got a telescopic sight. It's extremely light, and it's extremely accurate.
Where would they be getting this sort of gun from?
Well, we don't know where this one came from. It could have come from practically anywhere. It's a Japanese. It's Japanese made with a Japanese sight.
Isn't it a pretty alarming trend if they're starting to get this sophisticated?
Yes, we haven't found very many yet. We've only found, I think, about 4 altogether.
Well, they're very expensive to buy.
They're very expensive to buy. But as I say, we wouldn't mind using this one ourselves as a sniper rifle.
The IRA gunman's main gambit is sniper attack on army posts like this one in the Ballymurphy area of Belfast. For the soldiers, perhaps the greatest problem is to keep up the same acute level of vigilance after days or even weeks when not a shot has been fired at them. For again and again, it's been proved in Belfast that the price of carelessness can be a bullet.
Well, this is, in fact, our busiest station. This is the Henry Taggart Hall, which has had the most incidents in our battalion area since we arrived. There have been approximately 30 sniper attacks on this position so far. They vary from the 3 positions, which you can see through here. The waste ground, a man with a Thompson has been seen down there, and he has blatted off at us on several occasions. And the more special sniper type attacks come from the houses straight through there, firing from the top rooms in many cases.
What do they usually do? Simply get up in the houses, fire a couple of shots, and then fade away, or?
It depends which weapon they're using. If they're using the Thompson machine gun, you normally get about 20 rounds as one continuous burst, which sprays the whole air pretty indiscriminately. The high-powered rifles you saw earlier are used single shots up to 5 or 6 at a time. We obviously fear the high-velocity ones more than the Thompson, which is so inaccurate at the ranges they're firing it from.
But obviously a great deal of this is simply making a lot of noise, because when your men are as well protected as they are here, it's pretty difficult to hit anybody, isn't it?
Yes, it is. A lot of it is noise, and certainly the younger gunmen. Remember, we're getting gunmen now of the age of 15, 16. They are doing it for kicks as much as for anything else, and they are trying to make a lot of noise. But remember that any of the rounds that are shot at us can kill a soldier, and indeed have done on many occasions since we've been here.
Has anyone actually been killed here, or?
None of our men have been killed here. You want to watch out the stones coming down. Yes, I think that the efficiency of the gunmen has decreased in the age of the gunmen, and that you're getting very much younger boys who
because
are not
you've been
trained
picking up and killing a good many.
Yes, we've been picking up quite a number. But we're also getting the young boys who are now doing the bombing as well. This company, for instance, the other day had a boy of about 5 or 6 who was incapable of throwing the bomb, so he ran up to one of the jocks, placed it at his feet, a hitting bomb, and skedaddled over a wall, and the jock then took to his heels as well, too amazed to shoot back. The jock was slightly cut, but otherwise uninjured. But it shows the sort of tactics the IRA are being reduced to.
However close watch the army keeps on movement and vehicles in Belfast, short of bringing the whole province to a standstill, there's no means of totally preventing the guns and the terrorists coming in. The IRA is getting the cash to buy the guns, and even in the hands of teenagers, they present a threat the soldiers cannot ignore.